My name is Vishnu Mohan Rao. I work with the Citizen, Consumer and Civic Action Group. I lead the electricity work here in CAG. So I think Mr. Nair has, even though I didn't tell him about the topic of my thing, he has touched upon most of the parts of my presentation actually. So the purpose of this workshop is basically to give the media I was telling Mr. Nair, the flavor of the season. So the EVs, the energy efficiency, the renewables. We made a small analysis of how it is being covered in the media and what more could be done to take up these topics. So I think that was the basis of this particular workshop, to give the media the topics necessary for them to take forward this issue, and also to provide a wider set of stakeholders here for them to for you to kind of talk to, in terms of getting expert opinions, in terms of improving the analysis bit of your reporting. So this is the way the way we wanted this workshop to be. But I will start with a small presentation on what it is already covered in a couple of years ago, but we did a small statistical analysis of media reporting in the electricity sector from 2009 to 2018, over a 10-year period, to see what the media has covered and what are the key findings and what more could be covered. Yeah. Yeah. So the idea of this presentation is that okay, the focus is specifically on Tamil Nadu. So we're not looking at the whole of India, specifically on Tamil Nadu, what the media has covered, and to identify commonalities and gaps. And in terms of data sources we covered, it's including print and digital media platforms. So we have over a period of 10 years, there could be a lot more articles out there we could have missed, but we tried to do a maximum number of articles. So 632 news articles were reviewed, and across 53 news sources between 2009 to 2018. So these are the news sources we have covered, and some of them are new, some of them are the traditional sources. And when we saw an overall set of articles, we saw that around Hindu has reported around 127 articles, Times of India 125, New Indian Express around 54 news articles, Economic Times 53 news articles, and Hindu Business Line around 47 news articles. And in terms of issues covered between 2009 to 2010, you had the whole power crisis, the financial restructuring, and some bits of capacity addition were there. In 2011 and 12, the tariff, the issue of tariff started taking precedence. Then you had the power cuts. From 2012 onwards to the 2015, you had severe power cuts, and that was one of the main sources of conversation for the media. In 2014, then you had these policy announcements of capacity addition, renewables, that started picking up. And in 2015, the media started reporting on, then the it started shifting to the renewables. From 2015 onwards, you had the renewable story slowly started to get in. And from 2016, there has been an exponential reporting on renewables, and especially 2016 was where the Uday scheme took place, investment in infrastructure development. 2017 and 18 was very much focused on the solar pump sets, and Uday scheme pump sets, and then you had these disasters happening in Tamil Nadu, the cyclone Gaja, and the disaster management reliefs around that. And overarching themes, of course, between 2009 to 2018 was electrocution, farmers, employee strikes. Then you had in some infrastructure development, innovation, technological innovation was reported in the media, and several political and administrative issues like change of guard at Tangentco, or things like that. And the main actors covered in the media is the are the government, the ministries and the departments, utility of course, the regulator, industries, CSOs to a small extent, consumers, that is where the sir has said about the human interest stories. That's where it has kind of picked up. And there is this, we saw this demarcation between the 2009 to 16 and 16 to 18, because when we saw 83% of the articles were featured out of the 632, 83% of articles were featured in 2016, 17 and 18. So then we realized there could be what are the things that the media has picked up post that has kind of spiked the interest. So, in terms of before, it was again tariff regulation, capacity addition, etc. Increasingly, the post 2016, we saw that the renewable energy story, the government schemes and policies were one of those things, some of the things that kind of the media has picked up. In terms of our number of articles, we see in 2016 it was 78, in 2017 it's 211, 2018 it was 241. Next. So one thing that we notice is the increase of digital media platforms. That has kind of increased the uptake of the renewable story, the electricity story in Tamil Nadu. Like the Wire, the Scroll, these are all the things that kind of get it. Some of the platforms, again, let's put here. So you have Citizens Matters, Down to Earth, Your Story, Energy Digital, Energy Infra Post, The Wire, Clean Technica, Renewables Now. These are the digital platforms that kind of picked up the Tamil Nadu story quite a bit around the renewable side. Next. And again, as Sir mentioned, it was the human interest stories that had an increasing focus and sharing across platforms. So like, for example, Solar Suresh, everybody knows him. So he is one of those people whom the media has taken an interest and showcased his story time and again. Then you have one story that comes to my mind is Orwell's Irumbai story of the Solar Village. That is again a human interest story of how it kind of picked up. The New Indian Express picked it up, and it kind of again these. So another aspect of this is the number of shares that these stories get. That's an interesting bit, I thought, in the sense that you have the Solar Suresh story being shared innumerable times. You would not see the same kind of story being shared, let's say, for Tamil Nadu being the, would have set up a solar power plant somewhere. That would not have been shared as frequently as the Solar Suresh story, for example. So this is something that we saw that in terms of in your story, a particular instance of this is in your story where it has been posted 52 times. There have been like 49,199, 111, 19 interactions, and the number of followers for the story in some sense is 83 lakhs 2,000 and odd. So this is the way I think the idea then is that the interaction between the media and the social platform is something that we need to think about as points of analysis or points to think like how is the uptake happening. So again, in terms of surges, it is just an example to see that at different points of time you have one story like the cyclone Gaja coming up and you have got a huge surge of stories around it. So this is one example of how the cyclone Gaja or the solar pump set scheme or the TN budget or anything that is related to that to the entire active sector, how the reporting has kind of picked up off and on and off and on. So this is kind of, again, we see the media interest waning for when it's very topical. You can't view it as a kind of to say that this is a constant interest of the media to keep track of one particular event or an item. So except for Solar Suresh, I don't think anybody else has got any interest in that thing. Yeah, next. And yeah, some of the stories that has been getting some little bit coverage, but We have had, like something rural electrification, electricity for all. 2017-18, that was a bit of a story. Then you've got some story around ocean energy and biogas that's slowly getting picked up in the 2018 period. So, next. And of course, the everybody now I think is going to be talking about the energy efficiency bit. That's a story that's not been covered in the media at all. No one has talked about energy efficiency, although there are some one or two explanations or examples given, but I don't think the media has ever picked up that bit of the story. Gender and energy, climate change, people talk about it, so talked about climate crisis, but in the Tamil Nadu thing, that has never been the focal point. I don't think media has ever connected energy with climate in so far. And of course other RE sources. So this is something that it's an ongoing thing. When the scheme, when like offshore wind, or when there's a scheme coming up, then I think the media will pick it up. And that's about it.